let's put everything else live. What up? I wonder how is TikTok gonna see us today? Probably not well. Okie doke. It's been an interesting weekend. A lot of things been happening, and one thing that didn't happen yesterday was the Venezuela thing that Trump promised that something's going to happen to Venezuela, even though nothing happened. And even Beef Jägermeister Hexet said that things are going to happen to Venezuela, even though nothing happened. But maybe we'll get an update during the stream about the situation in Venezuela. Who knows? I don't know. We'll see. Okie dokie.
We cut the eggs in half so that it stretches. We used to give out a whole dozen of eggs. Now we cut the dozens in half so they each get a half a dozen.
We're in Georgia, where Jennifer Deal has been operating this food pantry for more than a decade. Now, for the first time, she's running out of food.
You're welcome. There you go.
The amount of people who need it here is up 40% compared to last year.
Okay, so Trump's aid cuts are replacing fresh food with junk. The Trump administration has got nearly $1 billion in food aid, creating a scarcity crisis at food banks across the country. We traveled to Georgia to observe how a decades-old emergency food system supported by the USDA is being eroded by government spending cuts. Let's see.
Here.
Thank you so much. Yes, ma'am.
As inflation has gone up, more people in her community say they can't afford groceries.
For example, coffee. In 3 weeks, it went up $7.
Well, that's because of Trump's tariffs, nothing else. The reason why coffee prices went up was 100% because of Trump's tariffs. Whatever, like, it doesn't matter what the orange orangutan says, that tariffs won't affect the consumer, the customer, or that the tariffs isn't going to increase the prices, because the reality that everybody else except that Mango Mussolini is living. The reality is tariffs increase prices. That's it. And the people in the United States felt that, especially with coffee, because as we all know, no coffee is made in the US soil, and it's all imported. So when you put a heavy import taxed coffee, the result is coffee is going to be more expensive. But Trump kind of secretly reduced tariffs on coffee, kind of admitting that tariffs will increase prices. What up, Nicole? I said hi. Yeah, I saw that. I was in the middle of the sentence, so I didn't want to cut it. Carvel is, hey, happy birthday to you. It's like, it can't be my birthday every single day. But thanks for the happy birthdays, even though we're still a few months away. But yeah, Trump lowered the tariffs on coffee, kind of admitting that the reason why coffee prices went up was because of tariffs. And I can even find you that. Trump coffee tariffs. So Trump got tariffs on these 5... goddamn Washington Post. There we go. Bye. Trump signs order to remove tariffs from Brazilian beef and coffee. Why would he remove tariffs if tariffs didn't increase prices? Well, the reason is because in the real world, in reality, not in the Delulu land that Trump lives in, tariffs actually increase prices. So Trump reducing prices on coffee and beef is kind of a self-own, even though happy birthday every day is fine. It's okay. Every day can't be a birthday, though. But decreasing tariffs on coffee and beef is kind of a self-own by Trump, even though Trump did the one thing that he's done ever since the beginning, which is, I don't admit to anything. Hey, thanks for the sub, Vaimo. I don't admit anything wrong. I don't admit any wrongdoing. I was right all the time. And even though I'm wrong, I'm not wrong. I'm winning. What up, Cody? So that's the reason why coffee was more expensive.
The average cost of food in America is 28% higher today than it was in 2020. And for Jennifer, that means doing more with less.
So this is where
This is also hilarious because everybody in the Trump administration are saying that the grocery prices and the cost of food is lower. No, it's not. Trump even used the Thanksgiving basket as an example. Can you listen to me? Can you listen to me? What? I don't understand that. Anyway, so Trump used that Thanksgiving basket as an example. Again, TikTok. I said hi. I said hi back. My mic is working. I know it is. No, I didn't play Steal a Brain Rot. Again, TikTok is limiting the visibility. Hey, Top Target, thanks for the heart and popular. What up, Miles? What up, Miles? But yeah, the Thanksgiving basket is an interesting example. Basket price. Are you a girl? Do I look like a girl? I have some classes I can borrow you if you need some. Then Cody, I think you need classes. So Trump was using that the Thanksgiving baskets in Walmart are cheaper, which is not true. It's the same price and fewer ingredients inside it. Does a person with long hair make them a girl? That's a really, really silly argument. Oh, there's Ozzy Osbourne. Ozzy Osbourne had long hair. Ronnie James Dio. Ronnie James Dio has long hair. Jesus was a woman. Oh yeah, Jesus. Jesus had long hair. True. Didn't Saint Peter have longish hair? It's relatively long, a little bit balding on the top. No. I mean, Cody, I understand if you can't grow hair and you're jealous, like, that's fine. Not everybody can do that. That's completely fine if you're balding already. Just chill and let other people grow their hair that can grow their hair. Oh yeah, I can sense the jealousy in you. I can smell it all the way here.
where we keep our produce. We used to be able to give out a whole pack of lettuce, but now we have to break it down so that we can feed everybody. A few weeks ago, we ran out of food.
Despite rising demand, the Trump administration has cut nearly $1 billion in federal aid for programs that ensure low-income families are fed.
Not having enough funding to know that I can feed all the people that need it, I think that's frustrating and it's scary.
There's just a small body of water between us. Like if you're in Wales, so definitely I can smell it.
Food pantries, where people can pick up food, source much of their inventory from larger food banks that act as a wholesaler. The cuts have disrupted that supply chain. For decades, the federal government, through the USDA, has sent billions of dollars and hundreds of millions of pounds of food to food banks across the country. Private businesses and individuals also donate money and food, and farms sell food banks' produce at a steep discount, like this box of fresh vegetables.
Do you have a son or a daughter? Yeah, I have 2 daughters. Why? I'll humor this conversation for a while, but I also have a wife. So that's like 3 things you don't, right? So what's your point there? And my daughters have also long hair, and my wife has long hair, and I have long hair. And my father had long hair as well. My brother had long hair at one point, but then he decided to cut it. And my other brother is in the army. Can I see your daughter, please? I'm not telling you anything more about my daughters. Thanks a lot. That's kind of creepy to ask questions like that. Those are the sort of questions that your names could be found in the Epstein list. So calm the fuck down.
In March, the Trump administration cut funding for a USDA program that sent food from farms to low-income Americans. And it also canceled a pandemic-era aid program designed to make sure that food banks had fresh food. In a statement to the New York Times, the USDA said the cuts were needed to correct what they described as a Biden-era slush fund. In May, Agriculture Secretary Brooke Rollins defended the cuts in Congress.
Our team has sought to eliminate waste, fraud, and abuse.
You might be a good streamer one day. I'm just doing this for fun. If people enjoy it, then they enjoy it. If they don't, they don't. I have some controversial opinions though, so I think that's going to limit a lot of it. And it's all related to politics, so not controversial topics about like mainstream stuff, just about politics. And I'm not leaning towards like that brain rot, right-wing, red pill bullshit. You like soccer? I used to play soccer. I do love, like, I'm more of an ice hockey person because I'm from Finland originally, so ice hockey is a bit more our thing, but I used to play soccer. And you're from Wales, you should call it football, do you know? Like, you're from Wales, you should call it football. As every single European should call it football. Only Americans call it soccer, so. Who do you support? I've been a Barcelona supporter ever since 1998. Back when they had Patrick Kluivert, Marc Overmars. I think Pep Guardiola was still playing then. And then we had R9, of course, Luis Nazaret de Lima, original Ronaldo. Jari Litmanen was there. Who else? Frank de Boer was also a player there. Henke Larsen was there also. So I was through thick and thin with the Barcelona. And I was devastated when Luis Figo was transferred to Real Madrid. I was a relatively young boy back then. And when we got Ronaldinho, I was super happy about it. And then, of course, we grew up with like the Messi era, which was nice. I was kind of mad for Frank Rijkaard trading Ronaldinho to AC Milan. Man United better. Nah. No, it's not. Although I have to say, there is there is one player in Man United that I admired quite a lot, and it was Eric Cantona back in the 90s. Not because he wasn't the best player. Like, we had Zidane, we had Ronaldo, Rivaldo, we had like a lot of better players than Cantona. But I just loved Cantona's flair and the attitude towards like the game itself. So that fascinated me quite a lot when I was young. I had really weird like idols. Cantona was one, then of course Ronaldo, because I was a striker. Ronaldo was a huge influence. Ivan Zamorano. Ivan Zamorano was a Paraguay national striker who played for Inter Milan. Lice hair. No, I think you mean nice hair. Did you see their match today? Man United. No. That's kind of sad if like Man United is 7th. Oh god. They fell off bad. I haven't watched Premier League in such a long time. But I mean, Man United being on 7th place, it's sad. It is sad. The former glory of Man United, where the fuck is that? You know, we won the most titles. I know you won. Where are you from originally? Finland. I'm from Finland originally. So the reason, exactly, Cody, that's the reason why it's so sad, because Man United has always been like in the top. And them being 7th after 13 matches, it is kind of sad, to be fair. Okay, we're not talking about Barcelona. Like, Barcelona is doing okay now, but look at Liverpool. Yeah, I mean, where do you live? I live in Ireland. A lot of personal questions. I kind of like this. Yeah, I live in Ireland at the moment. What county? In the north. No, not gonna say the county. Because Ireland isn't that big of a country, so, and especially because the town I live isn't that big. Hi from Waterford. God damn. I'm not from I don't live in Waterford though, but yeah, I have a few friends who live in Waterford, but I live in the north. I used to live in Cork, that I can tell. We lived in Cork for 2.5 years, so we've been living in this specific town in the north for 6 months. 6 months, yeah, about. I get that part. So Cork was nice, but I do say that there was a bit too it was a bit too crowded for my taste. I will track you down now. I mean, if you go to my TikTok and you watch like my stories and like those videos where I walk around, you might like recognize where I am. But I have to say, we had the same conversation yesterday because I had Irish people here. So my favorite Irish city is Galway. And I still don't know if that's a hot topic, but Galway is the perfect mix of everything. It's not too big. It's not too small. It's really beautiful. There's a lot of nature there. It's next to the sea. So there's a lot of good things when it comes to Galway. And like, I just love visiting Galway. I know where you live. No, you don't. Nah. And I might go to the Galway Christmas parade or Christmas market that they have. But I have to glaze Galway a bit because Galway is quite nice. What are you writing there, Cody? I can't make sense of that.
In all USDA programs.
Soon after, the USDA announced more than $300 million in additional food aid spending. But food banks like this one in Atlanta, which sends food directly to pantries across Georgia, say it's still not enough.
We have to be creative and innovative and go out and find other sources of support to offset any changes that might happen at the federal level.
At the Atlanta Community Food Bank, demand is up 70%.
So what team do you support? Yeah, in football, I presume. In ice hockey, I support Pittsburgh Penguins, and of course the Finnish national team because I'm Finnish. But like in football, I'm a Barcelona supporter. Have been almost 30 years. God damn, almost 30 years. That's a lot of years to be a Barcelona fan. But I've always had a soft spot for like certain English teams because my cousin and my big sister was a huge Man United fan, and my cousin was a huge Arsenal fan. And back in the day, Man City was shit, so that wasn't a thing. 3-0 down Barca. No, well, to be fair, I kind of lost faith when all the tax evasion and corruption things came to light, like quite a few years ago, when Barca was like on the brink of being relegated and also banned from like other European contests. So it was kind of that tested my loyalty to Barcelona, because I hated that. I knew that was a thing, and I knew they abused the budget system in football, especially in the Spanish league, and they were like in debt, heavily in debt. They should have been bankrupt years ago, and they got bailed out. That's so sad. They should have let Barcelona just dwindle away. Chelsea was good. Chelsea has always been good though. There was a brief moment not that many years ago when Chelsea was a bit, I was gone. Okay. There was a brief moment like not that many years ago where Chelsea was kind of like mid. It's always been at the top, but it was mid compared to what Chelsea used to be. And I'm sounding like a really old guy. I'm not old, I promise you. I'm not that old. But sometimes I sound like I'm 100 years old. So Chelsea used to be like one of the top. So I compared every team to the heyday that they had. Not gonna lie, Barca is bad. Yeah. I'm not gonna take offense to that, because then Barca now if the news about what's the young guy in Real Madrid that they're gonna transfer to Barca at the end of the season. It's not that long ago. Like, Barca is doing moves again, but I can't really root that team because it doesn't have that identity that really resonates with me. So it's really hard for me, even though I love the organization because it's been a part of my life for a long time, but it's really hard to root for that team because it doesn't have the same things. Hey, thanks for the follow. It doesn't have the same characteristics as the Barca that I knew, you know? Like, if you think about the 90s Barcelona, it was literally the place to be in Europe. You had the original Ronaldo. You had all the Spanish superstars there. Then you had this Dutch superstars there, like Kluivert, Overmars, Frank de Boer. Then you had like the uprising European, like Nordic European superstars, like Michael Laudrup. You had, goddamn, Henke Larsen. They're shy now compared to Messi time. Oh yeah, 100%. I would even argue that we could say the same about Real Madrid. You sound old, good old times. Yeah. From time to time, I can sound
from
old,
just 3 years ago.
We would prefer it to be the reverse, where resources are going up and demand's going down.
Okay.
Just take it and unload it and bring it back right here.
All righty.
All right, sweetheart. Have a happy Thanksgiving.
You too. And thank you.
Canned foods, things like that, aren't as many as they used to be, as well as the meat. We used to get, I think, 2 to 3 sometimes, and sometimes it's been down to 1 to none.
Tamara Coleman has been unable to work since being diagnosed with cancer and Parkinson's disease. She's depended on this pantry to feed her family for the past few years.
And that's a pretty sad situation in the US. Like, I don't think the current government understands. They're just cutting spending. Like, literally, they put a blindfold on them and take a shotgun and trying to aim for a really small hole with a shotgun. Anyway, lad, enjoy your Sunday and good luck. Hey, thanks for dropping by. Have a great Sunday as well. Hope to see you again. So the current government is cutting spending from right to left without really paying attention what it affects. They're just focused on the numbers. And there are a lot of people who are relying on food aid in the US, and they are being affected. And they are going to be suffering because of it. And the Trump administration doesn't really give two damns about it, because it's not media sexy. It's not like they can shout slogans that they help the poor, because their supporters don't really care about the poor. So even if Trump wanted to help this, his supporters wouldn't be backing Trump up. So he's not going to do it because he always wants people to praise him and so forth. So it's the same thing with the coffee tariff thing we just talked about, which is like the reason why Trump isn't like spouting that from the mountaintops is because he created the issue. So he knows that if he now says that, hey, I'm going to lower the tariffs on coffee, he's not going to get praises, he's going to get ridicule, which he got.
We rely on this. If we miss it, we wouldn't eat.
Thank you so much. You're welcome. It hurts a little bit not to be able to give her fresh produce, fresh fruit, things that's going to help her heal in her journey. So we used to give out onions and apples and things like that, but now we've reverted to the junk food, chips, candy, things that's not, 100% nutritional. It's not good for them, but it's kind of this or starve.
This is the Make America Health Again. This is what RFK Jr. and Trump wants to do. This is literally like a good example of Make America Health Again.
We need relief somewhere. We need something to give. We need to know that it's going to get better. And right now it looks like it's getting worse. It's just bleak.
More cuts are coming next year. More than 2 million Americans are set to lose access to food stamps under the president's new domestic policy agenda.
The largest tax cut in American history, the largest spending cut, $1.7 trillion.
Meanwhile, Jennifer is bracing to feed even more hungry neighbors, many of whom she says voted for President Trump.
A lot of people went by what Trump said. Now people want to change their mind and it's too late. We have to suffer the consequences. More people are going to depend on us, but we don't have anyone to depend on to get the food from or to get the funding from.
This woman is doing way more than any MAGA supporter is doing. And she should get recognition from the government. She is literally helping people who doesn't have anything to get food. And it is unfortunate that you have a country as rich as and as great and as powerful as any American wants to believe that America is. And you have millions of people relying on food aid because the government doesn't give a fuck about them. It's easy to judge and call out people who need food aid that, hey, you should just try harder and get out of it when you don't need it yourself. It's really easy for you to be that selfish asshole when you have everything. But I bet you, when those people lose their privileges or would lose their jobs or would lose their income and they would need food aid, if they don't get it, they are the first ones to cry about it. So that's why societies like the United States, where it's all about me, is eventually gonna kill a lot of people. Not like directly, but based on their actions, it's gonna kill a lot of people. When you don't care about your citizens, you don't care about the weak, you don't care about the people who aren't doing that well, and you're just disregarding them as numbers and dead weight that is not producing anything to the society. And you call that progress. You call that the golden age of America. I call that sad. You can't really boast about how you're the greatest country in the world and you have the greatest economy in the world, but you can't really take care of your citizens that need help. And you're choosing who you help. Oh, we need to see if this state's governor or this city's mayor has said good things about me or bad things about me. Oh, they have said bad things about me. No aid for you. Oh, they have praised me. Then you get aid. That is a horrible way of taking care of your citizens, basing your help on who says good things about you and who says bad things about you. That's one of the most evil things a president can do. Not just the president, a person. In the situation that a person needs help, if you are not willing to provide them help because they have said bad things about you in the past, you're a horrible person. Father time. We just need father time to work a bit faster, to be fair. And this is not a threat. This is just human nature that everybody leaves at some point because of father time. We just need father time to be a bit faster on this specific character. Just a bit faster. Let's talk about Ireland. Now that we have some Irish chatters, let's talk about Ireland. Will Ireland's new alcohol warning labels turn people away from drinking? I have a direct answer for this. And the answer is no. If I've learned one thing in Ireland, it is that they don't care if they increase the prices. They don't care about warning labels. They don't care about whether you try to hide them. They will find a way to consume alcohol. So even before reading through this article, I can answer already that it will not affect drinking at all. It didn't affect smoking. It didn't affect vaping. It didn't affect fucking drink driving, texting while driving. Those are not good things, but it doesn't affect. One thing I know by living in Ireland for 3 years, that you can put whatever warning labels on things that Irish people love, and they will still consume that. Even let's play a bit of a game here. Even if you put a warning label on a beer bottle or a can of Guinness or a tab at the pub that will tell you when you're gonna die if you drink this drink, the Irish will still drink that. They're just gonna think about it like, okay, this is gonna be my last drink, and they're just gonna consume it. Jack likes a drink and a standard night out would probably involve several pints at his local. If you have 3 pints, that is easy going. The 29-year-old says probably a heavy night casually would be like 6+ pints. Those are rookie numbers though. That's the difference between Irish and Finnish. Like 6 pints. Those are like, you drink those before you go. Those are like, you need to warm up before you go to perform anything. So before Finnish people go to the pub or go to the nightclubs or anything, we drink 6+ pints. So if you go to the pub and think it's a heavy night drinking 6 pints, those are rookie numbers. You need to bump up those numbers. Jack grew up in County Galway, where he says young people often start drinking at 14, 15, usually in a field with a horrendous can of cider. I have 100 people I can get to watch your stream. Oh, nice. That would be great. 14, 15. That's a bit late, though. Okay, I'm again comparing this to Finland. Like, a lot of Finnish people try beer or even spirits way earlier than 14, 15. 14, 15 is when you get drunk for the first time. Yeah, 14, 15 is like when you start like partying and like drinking every weekend, and yeah, like, nah. It's not when you start. It's when you've already mastered the craft. And then when you're 17, your dad brings you to a pub, buys you a pint of Guinness, and that's where it takes hold. Ireland has a complex relationship with drinking, and many see alcohol and socializing as inextricably linked part of the social fabric of everyday life. That is the difference, though. Are you streaming tomorrow? I'm not 100% sure about that. Am I streaming tomorrow? Where the fuck is my schedule? I think Mondays and Thursdays are off days. Tuesday I'm streaming. Yeah. Unless something drastic happens. Hey Tyler, thanks for the follow. Unless something really drastic when it comes to news happens tomorrow, I'm going to stream. But usually Mondays are off days. So Monday and Thursday are going to be my break days. Another Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Those are streaming days. Pubs tend to be the focal point of communities where there's often live music and many traditional songs celebrate or speak of the harms of having one too many. Huge brands such as Guinness and Jameson are major exports. Since 2020, supermarkets and corner shops across the country have had to erect physical barriers between sections selling alcohol drinks and general products, while some bottles and cans of alcohol now carry among the strongest warning labels anywhere in the world. First signed into Irish law in 2023, products with the new labels which state drinking causes liver disease and is linked to fatal cancers are already on sale in pubs and supermarkets across the country. But in a move condemned by public health advocates, the Irish government has delayed their compulsory introduction until 2028, blaming uncertainty with world trade, which some believe in the result of lobbying by the drink industry. That kind of sounds like the drink industry is trying to lobby. The same happened with the cigarette industry. For its part, the industry body Drinks Ireland said it did look to the Irish government to give some breathing space on health warning labels, and that it believes they should be agreed on EU-wide level. Drinking alcohol causes liver disease. There is a direct link between alcohol and fatal cancers. Why can't those be immediately in every single beer bottle and like alcohol bottle that we have? It doesn't really make sense. It's not that bad. It was when Jack moved to Dublin in 2015 to study journalism that he really got to know the capital's nightlife. Dublin's a great spot because it's always spontaneous drinking, and that's why it's famous, he says. It's a very pub-centric, drink-heavy. A big weekend night out of Jack usually begin with pre-drinks, there you go, at someone's house, perhaps a bottle of gin mixed with tonic shared between him and 3 friends. Oh, no. Everybody have their own bottle before going to the club or for shots. Yet, even though he sometimes drinks a considerable amount, Jack, who works in advertising, says he knows his limits and feels healthy. I'm a pretty fit person. I ran a marathon a year ago, he says. I know my limits. As long as you know what your limits are, I think it's fine health-wise. It doesn't really work like that. You know? There's going to be consequences to your body when you continue drinking. Even if you know your limits, you know? You are taking a toll on your liver. And you are doing things to your body, even if you drink moderately. 3/4 of the population here drink, and celebrations from birthdays to weddings often involve alcohol. Consumption has fallen by around a third over the past 25 years, according to figures from the Drinks Industry Group of Ireland, Digi. Young people on average now start drinking 17, 2 years older than the average 20 years ago. But once they start, their consumption and binge drinking is among the highest in Europe. A report from public health and advocacy group Alcohol Action Ireland found the proportion of 15 to 24-year-olds consuming alcohol had risen from 66% in 2018 to 75% in 2024, and that 2 out of 3 15 to 24-year-olds regularly binge drink. Campaigners believe Ireland's alcohol warning labels are making an incremental impact, but 23-year-old Amanda, who's seen the labels, isn't so sure. You look at it and you're like, oh, I just drank that. Should I drink another one? Yeah, that's kind of my opinion as well. Amanda doesn't think people will pay much attention to the health warnings and reckons they might even make some more inclined to drink. I just don't think they care, sis. That is exactly what I said. You can literally put like for every 4 people in a pub, you could put a spokesperson who will tell you all the horrible things that drinking causes to you, and they would even listen to this person tell what things are caused by drinking and still drink. They don't give a fuck. I like to be in control of what I do when I'm out, she says. I don't really drink that much for letting loose. Okay. She is mindful of how young people are perceived on social media, and that influences her own drinking choices. Why? I don't like taking photos with myself with a glass of wine or Guinness, she says. You don't want to be in compromising positions. You don't want people to have a negative image. 21-year-old Sean lives in the capital and likes to socialize with friends. Some are drinkers while others are not. Unlike in other parts of Europe, Sean says, if you want to socialize in the evenings, there aren't many options here other than going to a pub. There's many... Well, to be fair, I don't really like that a lot of coffee places close. Like, way too early. There aren't that many coffee places, for example, or bistros or anything like that that are open in the late hours. But then again, I don't think many people will go there because there's the pub life that we have here. So people tend to go to the pubs instead of like bistros, coffee houses, etc. Cork had a lot of things to do besides drinking. Finland also has a lot of things to do. But I also think it's because people don't know any better, you know? It's the only thing they know. Oh, where do we go to hang around or have a conversation? Or let's go to the pub. They don't know anything else. That's the only thing they know how to do. So they would also need some like education what to do other than going to the pub and have a few Guinness. There's not much to do in Dublin after a certain time, Sean says. 6 to 7 or so. Now I'm conscious every time I mention those fucking two numbers because my daughter was bitching about it. 6 to 7 or so, the city is kind of shut down. 6, 7. At times you just feel like, I'm really not in the humor to have a pint, but I want to sit somewhere and see my friends. So I have to get a pint. Well, you can go to a pub like me and have a coffee there. They usually have like a kettle, so you get Insta coffee in a pub. So you don't have to have, and they also have alcohol-free beer there. They have sodas, they have tap water, they have sparkling water. So you technically don't need to drink when you go to a pub. But once you are in a pub, it's way easier for you to have that one drink, and then it transforms into another drink and another drink. He's seen the alcohol warning labels too, but isn't sure they will put him off drinking. Everyone is kind of knows if it's bad for you, but we do it anyway. Cigarette warning labels are far more graphic, Sean's friend Mark adds. Ireland was the front runner in restricting smoking, and since 2004, you can't smoke in the workplace or restaurants and bars. Even before the introduction of the new warning labels, some young Irish people in their 20s have been finding they are better off without alcohol in their lives. Mark rarely drinks. It's one for my birthday, one for Christmas, he says, in part because alcohol is expensive and it's cheaper to opt for something else. Is alcohol expensive? I'm kind of out of the loop, but because I don't really need to. This sounds fucking elitist, but I don't really look at my wallet when I buy a drink, you know, or buy anything. Is alcohol expensive in Ireland? I've had drinks in Ireland. I mean, you can get a beer for 170. That's not bad. It's not cheap either. You can get a bottle of wine for under 10 euros, so that's kind of fine. You can get a bottle of strong wine under 10 euros. I don't think it's that bad. I don't think it's that expensive. I just think that people are too used to cheap alcohol. I don't really like the taste of it, the 21-year-old says. Guinness is probably the one I would have, but also the cost of it. I'm saving so much money by just getting the Club Orange. Who the fuck drinks Club Orange? If you drink a soda, you drink like Fanta, you know? A proper orange soda. Of course, if you're saving money, I understand that though. I don't like. I bought so many Guinnesses in a pub that I don't even know what they cost. It's just like I'll buy a Guinness and then I tap my card and I don't even care what it costs. Okay, I've become what I hate. Helen is 27 and when she was younger used to drink regularly. Although she hasn't given up alcohol completely like Mark, she says she can largely live without it. The last time I had a drink was February, Helen said. It's kind of dwindles off to the point where I'm more or less sober, but I just don't identify as that because I may have a drink again or maybe I won't. It's kind of like me. Like I don't drink as often as I used to. Like I don't even have evening drinks or like weekend drinks or anything like that. I have like whenever my colleagues want to go and drink, it's like 1 or twice a year. And then I drink. I don't like have one beer during a Saturday or one glass of wine things. Nah, I don't do that. If I go to drink, I drink properly that one time and then I don't drink for like half a year and then I do it again or won't do it again. There's been long stretches that I didn't drink at all. For example, in Cork, I didn't really drink at all, so. Helen's friend Sam, who started drinking when he was 16 to 17, has gone a step further. It was a bit of fun then. I went to college and the drinking kind of took off. Sam, who's now 27, says, one day I just kind of realized it was going too far. My dad said to me, what are you going to do with your life? You really need to pack it in. In 2021, Sam signed up to a year-long no-beer course and quit alcohol completely. He's not had a drink now in 3 years and has even given up playing the concertina in pubs because it was so ingrained to have a drink at the sessions. Oh, kind of makes sense. When he does go to a pub, he'll opt for a zero alcohol drink. Yeah, it's really hard to be in those like places, especially if you've given it up completely. But he says it sometimes seems difficult for people to accept his teetotal. There's the odd person that you meet and you'll tell them you're not drinking and they kind of look at you sideways. Unlike Sam, Jack's not keen on a zero alcohol drinks and thinks they're a waste of time because it's the same price as a pint. He's thought about giving up drinking, but his inner resolve never lasts long. Honestly, it's quite difficult to try and embark to the sober journey in Ireland because it is intrinsically entwined into our culture, Jack says. I always kind of flirt with the idea of going totally sober, but then I instantly dissuade myself and have a pint. That's kind of the normal story here in Ireland, what I've heard. The BBC asked the Irish government why it had postponed the compulsory introduction of the new alcohol warning labels until 2028. It said the decision to defer was made following concerns raised about the impact of their implementation in the current global trading environment. Boats? What boats? But yeah, definitely like consider like how big of a thing drinking in Ireland is. The drink industry lobbied and got their way, so the labels were postponed. That's the reason. I don't really care what anybody says, that's the reason. Soon to be convicted felon asked pardon from the president of Israel. When the Irish people are going to make a stand? A stand for what? No, I don't. Please enlighten me. Are these the imaginary boats that bring thousands of immigrants every single hour? I'm an immigrant in Ireland, so I'm pretty sure this is about immigrants, right? So I'm an immigrant in Ireland. I didn't arrive on a boat though. I arrived on a plane. You're a good one though. Please explain. What makes me different from other immigrants? We want to keep you, okay? Well, I'm staying. I'm staying here in Ireland for a long time, and my family is also staying here for a long time because my kids are in school and we have jobs with my wife. But like, it doesn't really matter what people think. We just love it here. We've decided to do that. But yeah, I do know that some people, which is still the minority here in Ireland, want certain types of immigrants only. And dislikes. It's the same thing in Britain. You seem like functional, respectful human. I try to be. Nobody's perfect, but I do try to be. I try to be. I try to be a good person just to give an example for my daughters. Let's talk about Netanyahu though. So, it's not about skin, it's about their individual merit. Okay. Netanyahu officially asked Israeli president for pardon. So, those who you forgot that Irish people have to travel to UK and America in 80s. Yeah. And even before that, if you remember. Irish, there was a lot of Irish immigrating back in the 1800s and early 1900s to the US. So Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu has asked the country's president for a pardon in his years-long corruption trial, arguing that criminal proceedings were hindering his ability to govern and pardon would be good for Israel. Mr. Netanyahu, the country's longest-serving prime minister, has long denied the bribery, fraud, and breach of trust charges. His lawyers said in a letter to the president's office that the prime minister still believes the legal proceedings would result in a complete acquittal. Well, if he believes that, then they might want to go through with it. Only a guilty person would ask for a pardon before the trial goes through. And the reason why I want to see the trial go through is because there's pretty heavy accusations towards Netanyahu when it comes to those corruption charges, bribery, and breach of trust, because there are documentation of Netanyahu. These are all allegations and they are investigating this, so these are not certain yet. But he might have funded Hamas and might have his fingers on the terror attack a few years ago in the festival. So it's interesting to see if that trial goes through. I hope he doesn't get a pardon. I hope he's trialed, and if he's guilty, convicted. My lawyers sent a request for pardon to the president of the country today. I expect that anyone who wishes for the good of the country supports this step. No. Mr. Netanyahu said in a brief video statement released by his political party, Likud. I think anyone who wants the best for Israel and best for Netanyahu's country wants to see the trial go through, and also wants to see Netanyahu be trialed in Hague for crimes against humanity. President Isaac Herzog announced earlier that the request has been received, releasing the letter from the lawyers. His office said the request would be forwarded to the Ministry of Justice as its standard practice to collect opinions, which would be submitted to the president's legal advisor, who will formulate a recommendation for the president. Israel's Justice Minister Yariv Levin is a member of Mr. Netanyahu's Likud party and close ally of the Prime Minister. I think that's a bit of a conflict of interest there, isn't it? If the current Justice Minister Yariv Levin is a member of Likud, the same party Mr. Netanyahu is a part of, that's kind of a conflict of interest, isn't it? I don't believe a foreign government should have influence over another government. No Israel, no Hamas. We should organize our own homes. Yeah, I do agree. Like, Donald Trump shouldn't try to ask for pardons as well. Donald Trump sent a letter to the Israeli president like a while back asking for pardoning Benjamin Netanyahu. So, but I do think that we need to support the civilians being slaughtered in that region, because there's a lot of innocent people dying. And it's the same around the world, not just this conflict. Like, the Western countries that are doing well, I think every country that is doing well should try to help them, not just like this conflict again. There's other, like, there's the flooding in Philippines, Vietnam, and Malaysia at the moment. That's put thousands or even tens of thousands of people without houses, without food, because the heavy flooding of the Southeast Asia. And nothing's been like done for that. And especially in Philippines, where they cracked down on corruption, that they had a flood funding in the government, and they discovered that the ministry who was sitting on top of that money pile was actually using that money for themselves and not to rebuild cities and businesses that were impacted by the floods. What you say is true, but for the UK, child poverty is still very high. That is true. Child poverty is a thing in a lot of Western countries, but that doesn't include you don't need to exclude humanitarian help for like civilians and people who are desperately in need of fresh water or food in conflict areas. You can still do both. But yeah, I think like a lot of like wealthier nations around the world, in the like let's take Middle East for example, like Dubai or Saudi Arabia or Qatar, their wealth amount could help a lot of countries around the world. But why aren't they participating? That's another conversation altogether. And that should also be scrutinized. But the reason why the West isn't scrutinizing those countries is because a lot of oil is coming from there. So, and they have a lot of wealth again, so they don't want to, you know, poke the bear too much. But there's a lot of wealth around the world that could help innocent lives suffering in Africa, in South America, in the Middle East, and in Asia, even in Europe. There's a lot of billionaires and like a lot of wealthy companies and individuals that could do so much good. Instead, they decide to sit on top of their money, doing absolutely fucking nothing, instead of helping. I don't have that much money, and even I am helping. So I don't understand like why people who have thousands, tens of thousands, X more money than me aren't participating, you know? My money isn't doing that big of a difference, but at least I'm trying. And if I had more money, I would help more. There's so much the UK needs drug abuse, violence. There's a lot of lives right at our doorstep. We don't need to go far lands to do lots of good. In the letter, Mr. Netanyahu lawyers argued that criminal proceedings against him had deepened societal division and that ending the trial was necessary for national reconciliation. They also wrote that increasingly frequent court hearings were burdensome while the Prime Minister was attempting to govern. I am required to testify 3 times a week. That is an impossible demand that is not made of any other citizen. Well, I have a bit of a hot take here, but if you don't want to testify 3 times a week against corruption charges, don't fucking be a corrupt piece of shit in the first place. So instead of like bitching about it now, learn from this and don't do it again, so you will not have the same issue in the future. Of course, if he's charged, he's gonna go to jail and like so forth. So probably Father Time is also knocking on the door of Netanyahu, so who knows? Neither the Prime Minister nor his lawyers made any admission of guilt. A pardon in Israel has traditionally been granted only after legal proceedings have concluded and the accused has been convicted. Mr. Netanyahu's lawyers argued that the president can intervene when public interest is at stake, as it is in this case with a view to healing divisions and strengthening national unity. Opposition leader Yair Lapid said in a statement that Mr. Netanyahu should not be pardoned without an admission of guilt, an expression of remorse, and immediate retirement from political life. That would be the best result for Israel. It's really hard to stand on the side of Israel when the leader is so eager to kill any civilian, any children, any women, and doesn't care about human life. So we need to, if they want people to start sympathizing more to Israelis, they need to get the fucking main villain away. You know? I feel bad for Israeli citizens all the time. I don't feel bad for Netanyahu. He's a wild piece of shit and he deserves to be tried for crimes against humanity. And I hope that they will have a proper election and they will get a leader that actually cares for peace, cares for human life, and cares for the stability of that region. That's it. Thanks for participating in my TED Talk about how to... I had a way more blunt idea last time, which is like, take the leaders of Hamas, take the leaders of Israel, ship them in a small box into Antarctica and just forget about it. As an individual, we should help our neighbors and then they can fix their neighbor and so on, and hopefully it will reach all corners of the world. I believe that we should invest in technology so much that majority of the people can just live their lives without being required to slave away 80% of their lives just by working for nothing and then die. Not having the time to enjoy family life, not having the time to enjoy your loved ones, not having the time to just enjoy life. So we should invest in technology so much so that it can literally replace us in every single job. So as humans can just live life. That's the utopia that I'm not going to see in my lifetime, but I hope future generations at some point can enjoy, unless people who are crazy like this person we talked about decides to start World War III and everything gets destroyed, so it doesn't matter then. But yeah, that's the utopia I wish our civilization will have at some point. It's not going to happen in our lifetime, but that should be the end goal. Literally, an autonomous society that humans can enjoy the fruits of technology, doing all the heavy lifting, and we could just live, you know? Not needing to stress about going to work 5 days a week, so you're tired the next 2 days a week. You barely see your kids, you barely see your partners, you barely see your friends. And when you do, you're just super fucking stressed about your work. And when you finally retire, you just fucking die of stress. Because you don't know what to do, because you're so old and you can't do the things you wanted to do 20, 30 years ago. You've kind of wasted your whole life. So that's my dream utopia. I hope that one day that happens, but unfortunately, it's not gonna happen. It's the same thing like we talked about in the past streams about superpowers not giving up their nuclear weapons. Like, how bad of a person you need to be, or a government, that you don't want to give up your nuclear weapons. Think about it. Okay, there's an argument that, hey, if I give up my nuclear weapons, then the other guy doesn't give up their nuclear weapons, then they would have an advantage. Okay, then they're the shit persons. You know, every single country in the world should just voluntarily come to a conclusion and an agreement to give up all the nuclear weapons. Because no single country, and especially not a single person as like presidents of those nations, they shouldn't possess the power to destroy the whole civilization. No one should have that sort of power. Even though we have the technology, we have the capabilities of building that, no one should still do that. Why do we need to enforce fucking blatantly? You can blame religion for that. Yeah. I mean, I try to avoid that because, like, okay, I'm an atheist, but I am fascinated about religion. I've read a lot of religious scripture of like various religions, and they are really fascinating stories, and I treat them as stories. But when you start killing people because you read a story, that's where I draw my line. Like, as long as you don't hurt anyone with your belief, you can believe in anything you want to. If it brings you comfort, just go for it. Like, if you're afraid that you're one day gonna die and then there's nothing, and you believe in a higher being, so that brings you comfort that there's something beyond death, that's fine. But when you start killing people because you misinterpret your book, and based on that belief, you start slaughtering other beliefs because they believe differently. Yeah, that's not a good society to be in. Yeah, religion is... Some people call religion cancer. I'm not one of those, because majority of the believers in the world are those that keep their beliefs to themselves. They just believe because they need it themselves, and they don't want to benefit from it. But unfortunately, they are the silent majority. Silent majority. The loud minority are the ones that commit heinous crimes because of religion. This is my belief. Your ideal world with technology that takes over sounds very good, but unfortunately in this world the technology would be misused. Oh yeah, and that's why I think like it is a utopia. And what you said is probably what's gonna happen. And it's because of greed. There's like, we're talking about religion. So we have the traditional religions, Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, Buddhism, Judaism. Like, we have all of the traditional religions. But then we have other isms that are acting as religion. And one of the main isms that would affect that technology wouldn't be used only for good and it would be misused and abused is capitalism. The reason why drug prices are super high is because of profit margins. The reason why the cost of living is really high, even though it doesn't need to be, is because everybody wants to make as much money as they can. They don't care about anything else. And that is the main reason why a utopia, like I described, that technology would make it so that humans doesn't need to work. Somebody would abuse it, and it would be because of power and money. And, well, greed. Yeah, 100%. If a communist or a socialist utopia have like those Soviet Union type of totalitarian dictatorship aspects, 100%. But because, like, I know this is a broad topic, but the best society is a mix of socialism and capitalism. Usually like almost 50-50. And it should never, the balance should never tip in favor of either one. It should always be a division without any either side being the majority. Does it make sense? You know, that there's the private a healthy private sector, and there's a healthy public sector, that they coexist. But unfortunately, because of interest of both sides, they are in constant power struggle to gain the majority. The private sector wants more because they want more equity, they want more money for their CEOs, their shareholders, so etc., etc. They will make more profit. They will do anything to do that. The government and the public sector, of course, wants more money so they can, well, abuse it as well. So a perfect utopia of a perfect utopian socialist country is kind of hard to believe, because that would require that every single individual in that community would think alike. And that is not humanly possible. Even though socialism is a really nice concept, humans aren't capable of doing that in a way that it's actually like beneficial. There's always that one individual, there's always that one group in that socialistic utopia that wants to take power and abuse it. And then it transforms from a socialistic utopia to something else. But yeah, it would be nice though to be able to enjoy your life, majority of your life. Speaking of corruption, all the president's millions, how the Trumps are turning the presidency into riches. Hey, thanks for the follow. Didn't they just send like Trump's son-in-law, the Kushner guy? Kushner was a part of like negotiating the peace deal between Ukraine and Russia. And I read that news and I was like, what the hell is Trump's son-in-law doing there? Some say we lost in 1940s. No, whoa. 1940s, it's a interesting situation because it was such a division. Wink, come on. So I read the news about Kushner being a part of the Russia-Ukraine peace negotiations, well, mainly with Russia. And I was like, what the fuck is that guy doing there? He is not an official representative of like the US. And then I understood, well, yeah, if you think about it, like Trump Jr. made some deals with Saudis, and Eric Trump did some deals with the Qatar. So yeah, they're just trying to maximize the profit from this presidency So they're set up for life. So, and to be fair, Biden's son did the same thing. So it's not better on the other side of the coin, you know. The Democrats aren't any better. Their family members have also abused it. I don't know about Obama's kids. I think they are probably as well. But I do know that Biden's kids, for example, they kind of abused it as well. From Vietnam to the Balkans, Donald Trump's family has launched a global deal-making blitz since his re-election. A crusading prosecutor in the Balkans come under pressure to chop a big case. Vietnamese villagers learn they are to be evicted. A convicted crypto kingpin in the Gulf receives a pardon. I have one thing in common. They appear to be connected to the Trump's family campaign to amass riches around the world. Since Donald Trump's re-election a year ago, warnings that his use of presidential power to advance personal interests is corroding America's democracy have grown even louder. What is less understood and perhaps even more dangerous is the damage this is doing elsewhere. Trump's eldest son, Don Jr. and Eric, formerly the custodians of the family business, are conducting a global deal-making blitz. They have broken ground on new golf courses, received permission of new skyscrapers, rented out the Trump brand in cryptocurrency. They have embraced venture with the capacity to bring in more than everything that has gone before. They insist, in Eric's words, that there is a huge wall between this money making and their father's position as the most powerful man alive. There's no fucking wall there. There's nothing between that. They're just abusing that relationship, you know? Nothing I do has anything to do with the White House. Come on. They can say that, but let's take fucking LeBron James's son. You think Bron Jr. had all those scouts watching him play in high school, in college, because he was so fucking good, or because LeBron James was there? I also blame places like London. Their only economy is selling debt and real estate. 100%. That is really good, like, analysis about London. But like, if you think about it, take any big name, like LeBron James example I gave, or Cristiano Ronaldo. Like, Cristiano Ronaldo's son is shit in football. You think he's getting to those teams because he's good? Well, he isn't good, so we know that he isn't getting those shots because he's really good in football. He's getting those shots in because he's Cristiano Ronaldo's son. And even if Cristiano Ronaldo would come out and say like, hey, it's nothing to do with me, that's the fucking only reason, because they can use that as a marketing thing. The same thing as the business partners with the Trump's children can use that, hey, we're working with the sons of the President of the United States. So whatever Eric Trump and Trump Jr. says in that cocaine high that they have, it's not true. Or fentanyl, whatever drug they nowadays use. I think Trump Jr. is always high in cocaine. Eric kind of looks like he uses fentanyl a bit more. These are only speculations. Nothing's been proven. Just to cover my crowns here. But Christopher Harrison, a senior foreign policy official under President George W. Bush, who now runs an anti-corruption organization called the Decleptocracy Project, is among those accusing the Trumps of operating a pay-to-play system that benefits those who do business with the president's family, such as an approach could be manipulated, he said, especially by rival powers such as China. He said Trump has made authoritarians' wildest dreams come true. Despite the allegations denied by the White House of conflict of interest, no explicit quid pro quo have been proven. But the Trump's business interests are raising questions about convictions that have been quashed, sensitive technologies transferred, tariffs eased, alliances forged. Should any of this give the appearance of abuse of public office for private gain, commonly known as fucking corruption? Ethics experts fear it invites other rulers to do the same. They're probably doing it already. It's not that it just invites people to do this. It's just when the leader of the United States and the family of the leader of the United States are doing it so openly, it just invites people to abuse it more. They are probably doing it already, but now we can do it more openly, more blatantly, and not give a fuck about like what people say. In Trump's first term, the chief concern was whether foreign rulers would take expensive suites at Trump's Washington hotel as a way of putting money in his pocket. He pledged that there would be no family business deals abroad. That pledge has now been ditched, and although the president has put his stakes in the family's business in a trust, his financial disclosures show profits still flow to him. The Trump's most natural allies, first in business, now also in politics, have long been the rulers of the Gulf's petro-monarchies who see no distinction between their state's interests and their families. Since last year, the Trump's business in the region has accelerated. A golf course in Oman, Dubai apartments going on sale, Chuck Schumer, the Democrats' leader in the Senate, said Trump's trip to the Middle East in May seemed less like a presidential visit and more like a personal business venture. In Qatar, a golf resort deal with a state company in April was followed the next month by the gift of Flying Palace for Trump to use as Air Force One. Then in October, he committed US troops to defend the tiny Gulf state in Saudi Arabia, where new golf and hotel projects are already underway. News in November of yet another potential venture in a development overseen by the Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman emerged days before Trump agreed to sell F-35 fighter jets to the kingdom. Jared Kushner, Trump's son-in-law and sometimes diplomatic envoy, said recently, "What people call conflicts of interest, I call experienced and trusted relationships that we have throughout the world." I like how the Greeks did their politics. You have to give up all assets and never to marry to prevent corruption. Yeah. I mean, there should be zero corruption policies in every fucking government in the world. But do you know why we don't have those in every single government? Because the people who would make that law, they are corrupt and they wouldn't pass that law. So it's really hard to pass a law about anti-corruption when you're corrupt as fuck. As to comment for this article, Caroline Louis, the White House press secretary, said the media's continued attempts to fabricate conflicts of interest are irresponsible and reinforce the public's distrust in what they read. Neither the president nor his family have ever engaged or will ever engage in conflict of interests. I mean, just by reading what Caroline Lewitt says, we know that's bullshit, because one thing Caroline Lewitt does really well is lie. Well, okay, she doesn't lie well, but she lies a lot. Ben Rhodes, who was Barack Obama's deputy national security advisor, argues that the Trump's approach amounts to nothing more than an old-fashioned grit tethered to a superpower. It is incalculable what damage we are now seeing, said Rhodes. Corruption, he believes, is now the norm in geopolitics. I wonder if this is related. Oh, these are. Yeah, there was the crypto criminal that they released, and now he's like having coffee and lunches with Trump's son. So yeah, I do think that 100% it's like Trump's administration is corrupt. It's not even like a question at this point. There's also surging measles cases, our fire alarm, warning that other diseases could be next. This is kind of sad to read in 2025. As measles cases continue to rise around the globe, the World Health Organization warns it's a signal that other diseases outbreak could soon follow. And I do believe that this is a result of growing mistrust in proven vaccines. Well, I'm not talking about COVID vaccines before somebody jumps in. I'm talking about fucking measles vaccines coming from other countries. And before somebody says that vaccines causes autism, I have a page for you. .com. Oh my god, where is it? How? I think it's this. There we go. One of my favorite pages. So before somebody says that vaccines causes autism, how do vaccines causes autism? They fucking don't. And that's proven time and time again. It's not even up to debate. It is scientifically proven year after year. As measles cases continue to rise around the globe, the World Health Organization warns it's a signal that other disease outbreaks may come as well. The surging number of measles cases around the world is a stark warning sign that outbreaks of other vaccine-preventable diseases could be next, the World Health Organization warned Friday. It's crucial to understand why measles matters, said Dr. Kate O'Brien, director of the WHO's Departments of Immunization, Vaccines and Biologicals. Its high transmissibility means that even small drops in vaccine coverage can trigger outbreaks, like a fire alarm going off when smoke is detected first. That is, measles is often the first disease to pop up when vaccination rates overall drop. When we see measles cases, it signals that gaps are almost certainly likely for other vaccine-preventable diseases like diphtheria or whooping cough or polio. Even though they may not be setting off the fire alarm just yet, O'Brien said at the media briefing Monday ahead of release of the WHO's Progress Towards Measles Elimination report. Indeed, whooping cough cases are also rising in the United States and are on track to be the most in a decade. More than 20,000 whooping cough cases have been reported so far in 2025, according to the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention. It may not be vaccines, but medication in general can cause disabilities in unborn children. I mean, yeah, alcohol, tobacco, like a lot of things you put in your body can cause harm to an unborn child or affect the unborn child. That's why pregnant women are told not to consume alcohol or smoke or do drugs, you know. That is true. In 2024, hey, Emory, thanks for the follow. In 2024, there were an estimate of 11 million measles cases, infections worldwide. According to the report, nearly 800,000 more than were recorded in 2019. The ongoing outbreaks threaten the so-called measles elimination status of some countries. Elimination means a virus has stopped spreading in a specific country or region. Only one virus, smallpox, has been eradicated or wiped out permanently worldwide. There's a very high rise in autism in the last 30 years. There's a reason for that. And the reason is we now detect autism better. It actually, if you think about it, and it's also scientifically proven that the reason why the increase of autism numbers for the past, actually, I think the number is 50 years. You can see a increase in numbers is because we can detect it better, and we are actually studying it. So before the 80s, we didn't really care about that stuff as much. We did study it a bit, but not that much. But since the 80s, the science behind studying autism has gotten so much better that we can actually detect it. So before the 80s, a person would say that he's just acting out. But in the 2000s, he would be autistic because he was also autistic in the 50s, but they just didn't understand it. I have almost a paradox for you if you're interested to hear. Just type it there. In total, 81 countries has reached elimination status in 2024, according to the WHO. Canada eliminated measles in 98. 2 years later, the United States did the same. Elimination status means a country has the capacity to stop an outbreak when measles cases arrive from abroad, O'Brien said. If vaccination rates are high enough, the virus won't have enough unvaccinated people to infect, holding an outbreak in its tracks. But vaccination rates in the US states are falling, and an NBC News investigation reveals that since 2019, 77% of countries and jurisdictions have reported declines in the number of kids getting routine childhood vaccinations like the measles, mumps, rubella shots. The key determining factor for a country to lose its measles elimination status is the ongoing spread of the same strain of the virus for a full year. Canada met the threshold this month. The United States could be next if scientists can trace current cases to Texas outbreak that began in January. Weekly measles cases in the US. Nearly all of the samples analyzed from those early cases were identified as a genotype of measles called D8, according to CDC report published in April. The D8 genotype was recently detected in South Carolina outbreak. And this is getting worse because the MAHA movement and the Department of Health and Human Services, run by RFK Jr., is actually like promoting those anti-vaccination messages. And that is not good. That is not a good sign. Did Trump wake up already and do something to Venezuela? Wait a second. Ireland. What did Ireland say? If we believe there is corruption and lies in our government / capitalism, how can we trust what they say or do? Or if we do not believe there is corruption, capitalism, those that mean we can trust our government and capitalist companies. That is like a perfect paradox almost. Depends on the country we talk about. If we're talking about the US, in the USA, it is really hard to figure out what to trust and what not to trust. The only ones you can trust are like the scientific community that doesn't really, because the scientific community doesn't, it's not based in the US only. Because like, if you know how the scientific community works, like if a scientist in US claims something, let's say that they invented a drug that completely destroys lung cancer, then the scientists in Europe and Asia and South America and other places, even inside the US, are gonna try the same thing and check that if they come to the same conclusions. So the scientific community is kind of excluded from this, but the government itself isn't. So we can trust the scientific community better than the government. The government is a bit more hard to trust because in the USA especially, because the Congress, the senators, and the presidents are heavily lobbied by companies. So it is really hard to trust what they say, because they are lobbied to the point that if they were NASCAR cars and they have those sponsor stickers in their body, they would be covered in those stickers, especially from the pharmaceutical companies. So Then we come to a paradox. Like, if we believe that there is corruption and lies in our government and capitalism, how can we trust them? Technically, we can and can't at the same time. For scientific research, most of them need funding in most cases, and for them to keep their funders, they could be bent to their will. No, because they need to disclose their funding, and they like the scientific community is such, like when you're doing research, if you have conflict of interest, you need to put them out, or you will never do a scientific research again. You need to disclose anything. And there's usually at the end, there's like things to consider when you're reading like a scientific study or a paper. It discloses all like who was a part of this, who funded this, everything. So you can trace back and see if there's a conflict of interest and so forth, so forth, so forth. So again, scientific community is a bit different. But yeah, that is a good paradox. And it is hard. The ideal world, we would have anti-corrupt laws, and we would keep those two entities different. Like we would keep the government different from the private companies, and they wouldn't mingle, other than like having conversations how to make the world a better place, but not take bribes. Statement in response to Dublin City Council on the proposal removal of the name of Israel's sixth president Chaim Herzog from a park and renaming it Free Palestine. Fucking love Dublin. They're also proud people and not afraid to call out sellouts. True. We are following with concern the reports from Ireland regarding their intention to harm the legacy of the sixth president of the State of Israel, the late Chaim Herzog, as well as harming the unique expression of the historical connection between the Irish and Jewish people. Beyond being an Israeli leader, Chaim Herzog was also a hero of the campaign to liberate Europe from the Nazis, and figure who dedicated his life to establishing the values of freedom, tolerance, and pursuit of peace, and the fighting against anti-Semitism. His father, rabbi, is blah 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 propaganda, naming the park after his son some 3 decades ago, blah 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 blah. Unfortunately, this relationship has deteriorated in recent years, yet we still hope for the recovery of these important ties. Removing the Herzog name, if it happens, would be a shameful and disgraceful move. We hope that the legacy of a figure that at the forefront of establishing the relationship between Israel and Ireland and the fight against anti-Semitism and tyranny. I mean, fuck that. Just rename it whatever you want to. If they want to do it Free Palestine, Israel doesn't have anything to say. It's Dublin, so Israel just can care about their own, you know? What did Lindsey Graham say? When you think it couldn't get any worse in Ireland, it's not bad in Ireland regarding animosity towards Israel and the Jewish people. They don't hate the Jewish people. Like, this is a thing that people often misinterprets. The Irish don't hate Jewish people. They dislike what Israel, the government of Israel and Netanyahu is doing to the Palestinian people. That's two different things. They don't hate the Jewish. They hate what Netanyahu and Israel is doing, which are war crimes. This is a fucking straw man that Lindsey Graham is doing. Apparently, the Dublin City Council is going to rename a park that was dedicated to Chaim Herzog, who was raised in Dublin and became the sixth president of Israel. Blah, blah, blah. Some are calling for the park to be renamed Free Palestine Park, whatever that means. I mean, you can read English, I hope. In case anyone had forgotten, Israel withdrew from Gaza only to have Hamas take over by force and govern by terror. Oh my fucking god. Croc, how much money has Lindsey Graham taken for Israel during his political career? Oh yeah, Croc doesn't answer any questions from Israeli, so... I applaud Dublin, though. They can do what they want to their parks, yeah, you know? Venezuela. Let's see what's happening in Venezuela. Nothing yet. Do we have that in Irish Times? Yes, we do. Ah, fuck. Don't do that to me. RTE. RTE, RTE, RTE. Israeli president condemns motion to rename Dublin Park. In the past, scientists have made errors not because of lies, but genuine mistakes. That generally means they are capable of making mistakes in the future. That is not foreseeable. Does that mean we can't trust them totally? No. Scientists never claim that they are 100% right. That's why, for example, when it comes to the safety of childhood vaccines, they constantly study, and they have studied it for, what, 50 years already, and they are continuously studying it. And if they find something that is they made a mistake in the past, they will correct themselves. So that's why I fucking love the scientific community, because it's not 100% truth, and they admit it themselves. Science is never 100% truth, because it is evolving constantly. Our methods of like discovering things and the technology is evolving, so we're constantly discovering things, and then we're just like correcting ourselves all the time. I don't think there's ever gonna be an ultimate truth when it comes to science, and that's one of the only fields that they are willing to say that they were wrong in the past and correct themselves, because that is literally their job, is to study things and understand things better. And if there's new things, then they correct themselves, you know? Scientists would be horrible when it comes to like governing people, though. They are good what they do, but we can't trust them totally. I mean, I can. Like, I can't tell people what to trust and what not to trust. I can trust scientists, like, because I know how they work. And that's enough for me. Like, the reason why I trust scientists more than president, like, the reason why I trust scientists more than Trump is because when scientists discover that they did a mistake, they will correct themselves and increase, like, the study on that topic. But the reason why I don't trust, for example, let's take Trump, is because when he discovers he did a mistake, or somebody discovers he did a mistake, he never admits that mistake, and he might even double down on that mistake. So, and that's applicable for a lot of world leaders, and especially politics. Like, politicians rarely admit their mistake unless it's a really bad one and they are caught in the act itself. So, and this is only my own way of thinking. I'm not like advocating this to anybody, but I trust scientists way more than I trust politicians. But unfortunately, scientists wouldn't make really good politicians because how they work. Okay, it's 9 o'clock. We're actually late. So, hey, thanks for keeping me company, RP, and everybody else. There was a good conversation like throughout the stream. Thanks a million, guys. Tomorrow's going to be an off day. We're going to be back on Tuesday. So hopefully seeing again on Tuesday. It's because they use logic, yeah. And unfortunately, logic can be a bit too cold when you're working with humans. But yeah, take care, guys. Have a great rest of the day. Enjoy your Monday. We'll see you guys on Tuesday, unless something big happens tomorrow. We'll see.